Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Simon from Siphon T C G, and I'm coming to another episode of Art of War. This is Art of War episode 12, and guys, I'm excited that we made it this far. I remember the first few episodes that we did. Yeah, it was looking all right, but I did not perceive me making 12 episodes of Art of War. And today we're going to break down one of my favorite matchups that I like to play. It is the Control Dash versus OLDHIM. And why is this one of the best matchups I like to play? Well, I do think this is favored in my part. This is still a very hard match to actually play, if this makes sense. If both players line up their most optimal plays turn after turn, I do believe the Dash wins. But the room for error is also on the Dash player. The OLDHIM player's average plays won't affect the outcome as much, like if they make a negative play, versus the Dash. If the Dash makes a negative play, it drastically takes the outcome. Because very rarely do you see a large life difference in this game. A lot of times it's each player sub 10 going into those final few turns, and very, very, very small edges is what comes out here. Now, one thing is, why is this favored for the Dash player, in my opinion? It is just the ability for us to go over the top with our pistol plan is much greater than anything they could do in the late game. And it's just the fact that if both players are swinging for a bunch of damage, at the end of the day, we are not losing cards from our deck. We are only gaining cards, kind of, right? Well, if they want to throw a big attack, they still lose a card. If that, see where I'm going here. If we both throw 10, if they throw Glacial Footsteps for 10, they pitch 2 cards. Cool, they use 3 cards to do 10 damage. We can use that 3 cards as well to do 15, except we don't lose one. And then we can slowly block out some of their attacks, still chip in. Now, the thing that does make this game close is Rampart of the Ram's Head, as you guys see here. This specific card makes this matchup very, very interesting. If this card, for some reason, was not to exist, I feel like this would actually be a buy for Dash. But it's just the fact that this can constantly just add its attack. And even if you don't want to add any more attack to it, you can just sit it on the chain every time we break the chain and add it back. And you can just block for 2 or 3, and it just soaks so much damage throughout the game. It's so efficient. Like I said, people don't like things like Chrono Seeds, and like I get it. But there are times, obviously, where like you not having an arsenal and not being on Chrono Seeds is huge. But it's just this right here. It's just this. Another edge that we do have, right, is we have more overall block with our equipment. Not by much, but a little bit, right? So they have 2 block, 4, 5. This is technically 0, unless it's paid into, so we're not counting that, right? But we have 2, 1, 2, 2. And our equipment is not as vital, right? Is they really, really want this tunic. So like, even though, yeah, we don't really want to get rid of Tunic at a random time, if we have to block with Tunic to stop a breakpoint, we will do it. We don't really need this Tunic counter specifically for anything. And it's the fact that we have an additional piece that actually blocks. Now, this will prevent damage throughout the whole entire game, but this is one increment on the second turn. This is like more of a burst block on something very, very specific that is actually needed. Like, we won't mitigate as much damage throughout the game with our headpiece, but when it is needed, it will be much more EV. You'll also see that both of us can swing for 4 here with our equipment for a single blue. If we each have a blue, we swing for 4. But the unfortunate thing is they sometimes swing for 3, whilst we always swing for 4. I don't think the times they swing for 3 is many times, but it is something that can happen. Another big thing is if they are on the fatigue plan, like the heavy, heavy fatigue plan, like they're running like 3 3 Sun Kiss, 3 Bomb, 3 Sigil, plus a heart, etc. Right? They can gain a lot of life, but so can we. So we're even on that access, right? those are just a lot of things that come in this matchup, right? And if they're on this plan, this is really good for us. People might say, well, they're going to gain just as much life as us. That's like cool. You know what they're not doing if they're gaining life? They're not attacking us. They're not attacking this or attacking this. The two ways they can beat us. They're not doing any of that. They're just trying to make their number go up. Right? That's cool. They can make this number go up. But the more time we have, we can develop more of our items. More of our items really sculpt what we're doing here. This new version of the deck, we've added some 3 for 6s, 3 for 7s. Right? So now, we can do turns like load up a bunch of items, swing 7. Are they just going to take 7? No, it doesn't matter how much life they have. They're not going to take 7 unless they're going to bring back a big attack. So that's free real estate there. Alright, cool. Let's say they're on the very, very mid, like the average mid-range plan. So on the very mid-range plan, which is what our OLDHIM is, which is what I was putting the OLDHIM on at the start. Okay, this is a very 50-50 match. Like, we really need to get out items very, very quickly in that matchup. That's why we play things like Sift, Whisper of the Oracle. We're really willing to just like use every card we can on our turn just to ensure we draw as many cards from our deck. Because that is a match where our opponent can actually just be defensive and still swing meaningful damage every single turn. That is kind of difficult for us to do, and that is like the most skill check version. And then we have the super aggro version, which it doesn't really ever care about this. It just cares about this. A lot of times it will crown on its own turn just to like sculpt the best possible turn, and it will just try to send it every turn and tell you to deal with it. Those are ones where like we're not really going to fatigue an OLDHIM. As you can see, this OLDHIM started with 64 cards in deck. Now, yes, the philosophy why we start with more. Because we actually start with 69 in this matchup. So technically, if we were to trade card for card throughout the whole entire game, we would actually win. But this is just not very likely with how our game goes, because we are going to be trading more card for card. We're not going to be trading card for card for the whole entire game, because if they just send 9 at us, right? Well, we're not going to be like, I'll block 2. I'll block with 2 cards, take 3. I'll do that the whole entire game. Because unless I'm actually doing something on my end, like let's say this hand, I give them this and I give them that. Yeah, I'm going to be taking, alright, sorry, my mic just died. Sorry about that. So let's say I give them these 2 cards, right? I'm going to block for 7, take 2. And I keep Sigil and whatever blue card this is, right? Well, I can't really swing an attack. Obviously, I'm just going to pitch here, swing for 4. What they're going to do is they're going to crown, so that's 1 damage block. They're going to rampart, that's 2 damage blocked. And if they Earth React, which is a very likely pay pattern to do because they are playing more cards than they used to do, and now that's my damage fully blocked. They didn't actually lose a card, and I still took 3. Alright, so the argument that we just run more cards than them specifically isn't fantastic. And if even if there was just to give us a card, I do think they can mitigate enough damage with something like Rampart to where they can make the game interesting, because if we have like an off turn, they can actually send lots of damage our way, and it's going to make it somewhat hard for us to do. Now again, kind of going back to that full aggro version, like they come out with a lot of damage. They're Bravo-esque just without the dominate. And there's sometimes where like I prefer the dominate because I don't have to like it's not my choice. I get to keep like 2 to 3 cards to try to send something meaningful back and try to like somewhat race them there or just try to outvalue them there. If they're just sending like 9, like in my mind, I'll probably just give them 3 cards, and I could potentially start losing the race that way. There are times where like OLDHIMs have almost fatigued me just because of that exact concept. Is because they're losing 1 card, I'm losing 3, and if we do this for the whole entire game, yeah, I might have 5 more cards in my deck than them, but that quickly evaporates, and I mean quickly evaporates. So that was like kind of like a long spiel about this matchup. I think this matchup is really good. And it really just talks a lot about the dynamic of this matchup, because you'll see points where both the decks are doing the things that they want to do, and very, very key decision points, which actually determines who won this game. So starting off, Odom did correctly put himself first. I was unable to win the die roll, because I would love to just be able to go first here, set up an item, or play an item, pass. They can do no filtering for like a big attack, and things are on. So you see a very likely play that they're going to do here, and my opponent didn't actually mean to do this at the start. He ended up doing it anyways because I seen the card. Um, but he is keen on just Arsenal. Why? Well, unless I do have stuff like Sigil Solace, I can't respond. So if I have like a really bad hand with like 2 reds, well that just sucks for me, right? Luckily I do have the Sigil Solace to help me gain 3 here, so we're starting off that train of gaining life. But he is going to end up coming with this Glacial Footsteps for 8, which I don't really care to put 2 cards in front of. I could put like this and these 2 block for 7, take 1, keep it blue. But realistically, I would like to keep this Sink Below here to put in my arsenal, because I am likely to be able to draw cards that I can actually have a turn. And again, getting a D-Reaction arsenal is super, super key for those big attacks. So our opponent is going to think a little bit here. And because, again, I seen the card, they end up just sending it anyway. Which just goes into what I'm talking about. They pitch 2 cards. They lose technically 1 card. They've lost 1 card here so far. Now me, if I don't want to take too much damage, I have to lose 2 cards. So you start like that attrition war has already started. Right? Okay. Oh, whoops. So going into this hand, this is a hand I do like to see very early. Because I have very easy ways to go find my new cards. So like we have 3 red Whisper the Oracle and 3 Sift. So it's 6 cards that help us dig. Now these technically don't let us like draw the cards, but this lets us draw the cards, quote unquote. Because like if we see like an item and then like a random red like a CNC, we can bottom that with that top, boom. Now we draw ourselves into a better hand next turn. Or B, let's say neither one of these are items, we bottom, then the next card we draw is an item, boom, we get there. Or like let's say it's like these cards and like the item is technically like card number like 5 or something, where if we draw our next 4 we wouldn't have seen it. Because we got rid of 2 cards, we now see it in like maybe like an extra blue that we would have not had, if that makes sense. So that's why seeing these very, very early are good. We do see the double Sink Below here, which is kind of unfortunate. You could get baited into keeping both and just like saying, I can block for 8. Nah, well, you lose the game. You need to make sure you see those DRX, because this game will go to second cycle very, very frequently. And you do see me put the healing card on top, is I just want to see my healing cards really quickly, because these are not cards I want to see late, because they are block 2s at the end of the day. So if I can play them on my own turn under not much pressure, it does look pretty good. And you can see me here. These pistol shots don't actually matter for anything. Once you crown ramparts, it no longer really matters, because he just blocks out the damage pretty quickly. But here is coming in with this Glacial Footsteps Fuse. I can easily just block this for 7. Key thing here is what I'm blocking with. So initially I block with the Thrall and I keep the Sift, because I did plan on sifting both of these, trying to find an item in a blue. I end up changing what I do here and just sinking one of the cards and seeing if I can draw an item naturally that way. Because again, that philosophy I used earlier, I would just like to see I would like to see my healing cards. Now, the reason I actually only sink 1 card and I keep the healing bomb is if I draw an item, I can arsenal it perfectly fine. The pistol shots here don't really matter. B, I could just pitch whatever I find anyway. and play the Healing Bomb. It's a win-win. Nothing really is bad there. I will say this, pistoling just to make them have to use their crown is good. Because there are times where they will just put something in the arsenal that they really do like. And they will just hope they don't have to actually crown. These situations aren't very frequent, but they do come up. So again, we see 8. He uses 3 cards, but gets to keep 2 of them. Now I have to make a decision here. I do decide to choose the unmovable. It's because it is just the cleanest block on this. And I still have a D-React if I would like one. I also have a healing card, so I do have options with what I would like to do here. The best play here would just be use the Sigil and then Arsenal. That's all you got. He used Tunic Crown here. At least he wanted to, but then he seen I'm just playing Sigil. He kind of just like preemptively did everything, just like knowing like how the flow of this game does happen. Because I am no longer running Oasis Spit in this matchup, I can just use my Tunic for a counter a lot of the times, and it's very, very nice. The one big issue, and I will talk about this real quick, the one issue I always have with running Oasis Respite into Garden, which I still run into Bravo, just because I think like the play patterns versus Bravo do warrant it. But that is also a matchup I might actually cut it as well. That's because how well we do naturally block. Is you run yourself into the trap. You run yourself into the trap where Tunic's on 3. You have this resource here, which like, if I want to be the most efficient possible, I have to wait till I have an Oasis Respite, then I can use the Tunic counter. So this Tunic could just sit for like 4 to 5 turns and not getting any value, where if I just use this now, I can start building it back up again, and we can start getting that train rolling again. Like I said, Oasis Respite's a really good card, and it is one of the reasons we took out like Techno Foundry Heart from the deck. But I just think the ability just to gain extra resources turn over turn, I think actually changed this matchup a lot. Because then I can just have turns where I can, if I was like, let's say I had a Wish, right? This Tunic counter wouldn't be here. This Tunic resource wouldn't be here. And I would just be like, well, yep. I'm just going to keep going. And we don't load here. And that's just an extra resource that we would have needed in a later turn that we won't know if we have, because we don't know what our next hands are going to look like. We don't know. Are we going to be choked up on resources? Am I going to get ice reacted and get done dirtied here? We don't know. This is an interesting thing to see in the pitch deck, by the way. Is the Pulverize. Pulverize is a very, very interesting card. Get off my screen, please. Thank you. This is a card that we do not like to see. It is a large commitment, right? But because we don't have like items set up, we really don't get to take advantage of them getting greedy and like putting like Pulverize in the arsenal. If they did, we'd be looking good. Like let's say we had like Purifier, and that, and we could swing for 8. I think that would be a worthwhile trade, because then we can just take the next turn off and just block this out with whatever we can. But because we don't really have a setup, if they ever were to see this Pulverize, if we don't have like a 3 for 7 in hand either, like if we have a 3 for 7, maybe it's okay. But if we just send 4 and they take it and they send back Pulverize, well, we don't do a lot of damage, and we're still going to leak damage, and we just time walk ourselves, and then they get another turn. So like, seeing this is something that you do need to keep in mind and understand. We're also really not going to want to use our equipment block here, because we might need it for that as well. And it's not for the one-hit effect, it's just the pure damage that comes out for one card. We easily direct that, take 1. And this is where they heave another Pulverize. So now we're really sure, because now they have a Pulverize now, and they're going to have another one. And unfortunately for us, we don't have a 3 for 7 or 3 for 6. We don't really have anything. The only thing we can really do is swing our pistol, set up an item, which isn't the worst turn that it could have been. Like, if that was just another random blue, we would be in a horrible position. But at least here we get to poke through some damage. That is pretty free because they're not going to lose any cards in their hand because they just have no reason to. We can freely just spark a genius here and get our purifiers. Now, one reason that we get purifiers now, because I used to always get chambers first because chambers are just good. Well, there's two reasons why we don't want to get chambers early. Number one, oh sorry, the reason why I used to get double chamber. Let me start with that actually. Is if they play Smashing Good Time when we have one chamber out, boom, they just nuke it, and now we don't get to do the cool thing. But the reason why we just get the purifiers now is they have this thing called a rampart. Yeah. So if we try to go wide, they can just soak more damage. But if we go tall, there's more of a chance that we actually leak damage, which is all we're here to do. We're just here to leak some damage. We don't care about nothing. We don't care about nothing else. Right? So, freely getting these. If they do play Smashing Good Time, and it hits, and they take our chamber, that sucks. Right? Part of me thinks they should actually just take the purifiers. Even if I have full 7, they just take one purifier. It does hurt my damage. Like, it makes me only come in for 10 at max, which is like significantly less than 15. Even though it just sounds like it's 5 less, with how their deck blocks, that extra 5 damage is huge. Alright, so we go to the next turn. Oh, wow, I keep mulling over everything. So they come in with Pulverize for 14. Still get to keep a card, by the way, because they had Tunic on 3, which just absolutely sucked. But we're Control Dash. We are built to fight this. Boom. We're gonna give them a bunch of cards. Only take one, and then we're just gonna play Healing Bomb. Now, one other philosophy that I did is my old way of playing Dash is if I had this Healing Bomb, I'm like, cool, park it in the arsenal until it's needed. But here's the thing, I don't know when that time's gonna be needed. I would much rather just get the life out now. I would much rather get the life out now, because there are scenarios, and again, these scenarios aren't common, where I just have a bunch of cards in hand, because like maybe they just have like an all red hand, they can't actually swing back anything meaningful, and I have 3 to 4 cards in hand and a D-react. Well, now I have to take a weird turn where like I just swing pistols once, load them up, play the Healing Bomb, so I can now arsenal. And I just lost out on damage, which is important because I wanted to make them think I had a D-react or wait till the right moment to play this. No, just play it whenever you have it. Now, if it's a single solace, that's totally fine because you can just play it freely whenever you want. But when something like this uses your action point, I am just under the thing where I'm just sending it now. Yeah, like the ambiguity of what's in my arsenal is gone, but see the scenario here is like if I keep this full hand, I would not be able to, because see, I have an action point here with the purifier. I have stuff to load. I have just too many actions to do on my turn, and just not enough action points. So being able to like just freely like play out my turn and not have to make my turn more awkward because I decided to put a Healing Bomb arsenal. Because what do I do if I have Healing Bomb arsenal? Right? I probably have to like pitch the sink below, and the Whisperer will shoot once, load with whatever mana I have left, Healing Bomb, and then put the Purifier in arsenal. And then let's say he has another follow-up CNC or like a disable. Well, that's just me getting time walked again. Because I've seen one pummel so far. I've seen him pitch a pummel. There's a lot of bad things that could happen. All because I wanted to get cute and make an interesting decision. No. And here, this is another reason why like it's so good to have Tunic. Because like before, I wouldn't be able to load this item, and again, every single bit of resource matters on every single one of your turns. Because the more resources you have post shooting, is the next turn you have to load less items, which means you can block more, still output the same amount of damage, and it is just beautiful. But that is stuff like that's only really because I have this unit counter every 3 turns. If I was waiting on Oasis Respite, why the Oasis would have been good. I would be losing out on damage. And I am confident with how well this deck blocks that I can keep the damage. I don't need Oasis. Now, a world might come where I change my outlook and I add Oasis back in. But at this current moment, I don't need to do it. I see no reasoning. But here, them just putting the Sadius Chill does let me know that they are on. Not that I wouldn't know they were on it, but like they are on Endless Winter and Glacial again, and they might have more ice cards than the average deck to be able to consistently fuse this. Now here I'm just seeing what items I would like to load with what mana. Here I get the really nice play to preload my items and then throw Command and Conquer. Now, one reason, this is like the mental aspect of Flesh and Blood that I do like. So we normally have a very devastating one-hit effect here with this Command and Conquer. And they already crowned. So the one-hit of the Command and Conquer doesn't matter. So you know what they're going to do? They're not going to block because this just reads a 6 damage to them. They're not going to block. It's just 6 vanilla damage, right? Exactly. It is free 6 damage while keeping counters on my items. This is an absolute win for me. And this is probably one of the first points here where I really just felt like, okay, I think I can win this game pretty easily off of this exact play. And this play looks like nothing. You're like, he just took 6 damage from a vanilla attack. You're being dramatic. No. You'll see this big just chunk of 6 damage with my items already loaded. Absolutely huge. Especially when you get to the late game. And also, CNC is not something I want to see late either. I want to get all the reds out of my deck that I can. So he's going to come with an Endless Winter. He is going to fuse, so you're going to see the first point where NC is chill. We throw the Findle's Flying Spirit so we can at least keep some attacks and have that life gain later. I do apologize. My headset is continuously going out for some weird reason, even though it's been fully charged. So this Endless Winter here fused. Again, we pitched this here because obviously it clearly pays for it, and we would like the attacks late. Now, if we were at lower life than them, I probably would have discarded Healing Bomb, because obviously we play 2 members so we can get them back. But I would then have blocked to have gained a life and still block for the same value this Healing Bomb would. But because this claim pays for it and we want to keep it, we can simply get rid of it. And we don't care to take a turn off here. They just use one of their big attacks and don't nothing. And unless they come up with another thing like a turn like this where they have Gogans, like we don't really care. Drawing 2 reds here is unfortunate, but we will have Tunic on 3, so we can keep the Spark of Genius and the Brutal Assault blue, block a total of 7 damage this turn, mixed with a bunch of things. And we can feel happy about it. We're leaking very little damage. And this is where you can see the early healing is paying off. Like, you've seen how much damage we've actually taken so far. And if someone just walked up to this game, let's say we're playing in real life, someone walked up and be like, wow, 30 to 38, wow, the OLDHIM is done nothing so far. But that does not tell the story. The Oldhim's actually done a decent amount of damage. You just don't see it because the healing just erased most of that. Now he's going to come in for 10 here. Now I have an interesting choice. Do I want to get greedy here and still play the Spark of Genius, keeping blue in that? It is an option. Another option we can do is block with everything. It's not dominated. We could block it out, take one, feel good about ourselves. Yeah, do we get time walked again? But that's another big right attack. And like one of the other key things with this matchup is, while they will always have this Titan's Fist here, this Titan's Fist does 3 or 4. They don't have a lot of this. They don't have a lot of 10. Like that can really move the life totals very quickly. So blocking this out might also be a good shout. There's a lot of options. Also, we can just maybe block with Spark of Genius and Raging Onslaught, which is what we do here. Yeah, we lose the ability to develop an item, but we only take 4. We still have a health lead, and now we get to send back 8. So we will 100% win this turn cycle in some way. Either card economy or damage. I'm gonna keep it running, but like one person might look and saying like a lot of times we can fatigue this Oldhim. Look at this, 51 to 39, and I'm supposed to fatigue them. No, it is technically possible for me to do it, even from this instance. It is going to be harder than normal, but it is still possible. Like boom, we're gonna do some damage here. Set up our turn. Again, this is where Tunic is just absolutely beautiful for us to just preload items, send another 4. Our opponent is going to Rampart, and we are happy. They only have 2 cards this turn. They do have an E-Strike for $5 card, but again, we don't care because we have a very busted turn. We're going to get to shoot our pistol, preload items, and then play Plasma Purifier. So we technically have the better half of Exodia online. I would much rather have 3 Purifiers than 2 Chambers in this point. But here, you see what I'm talking about. Rampart just goes to work. Rampart is just going to work. He is going to Earth React us too, so this isn't going to do any damage, but that's perfectly fine. They use a card out of their hand, which is all we really wanted. We want to make their turn worse. Because what happens here... Because now what happens here, and why we don't care, is one or two things are going to happen. A, they throw an attack. Now they do have Tunic here, so they might actually be able to go like pitch a card, Endless Winter, Arsenal card, but they've already used 2 of them. If they had a third one, they had the third one, right? But the most likely scenario is they use 2 cards to throw a big attack at us. And yeah, that's going to suck. We're going to have to give them like probably unmovable and a card. Or they just throw something like Titan's Fist because like nothing in their hand can justify like swinging something. Either they don't have the mana to do it, or it just isn't an advantageous attack. And like I said, if they just go for an attack here and they go without Chrono Seeds, that is absolutely fantastic for us. That just starts that like snowball of us being able to leak damage just a little bit sooner. Now, if that Endless Winter or Glacial Footstep, well, can't be Glacial Footstep, but if there was Endless Winter Fuse, it'd be pretty good. Chokeslam for 6, this is the easiest unmovable ever. Like, do we care about the on-hit? No, but it is a very, very clean block. We have Tuna coming to 2, he is going to Crown Seeds. This is why I hate Talishar. some stuff automatically like passes priority and closes, and some stuff doesn't. I hate it. So one thing we would love for him to do is Ice React us here, because it just, again, it takes a card out of his hand, makes his turn harder, and we can still swing, which is all we care about. He's already crowned. He's going to Rampart. We know. Yeah, Ice React, cool. Boom. That's a card out of your hand. We're gonna come again. All right, this is gonna come in for 3, leaking 3 damage, which is more than it really should have. Now we're gonna come in for another 5. All right, boom. It's gonna leak another 3. Boom. 6 damage leaked. And we lost nothing. Now, boom. And endless winter. That sucks. I hate it. But that's why we call him movable. Bam. We do get a frostbite. And if we had another blue, it would have been absolutely wonderful. But we're just gonna load up items here, park that Sigil in Arsenal, and call it a day. We are still super happy with where this game is at right now. And all he does is swing Titan's Fist with that absolutely horrible hand. And this is where I get tempo back. You know, he's having the back foot for a little bit. I just give him 1 card. There's actually a world where I don't even have to give him that card. I don't even have to give him that card. But I get to load up all these items, shoot, and still develop an item. This is where an Ice React would suck, so it would be smart for me to play around Ice React and just develop my board. Because it's like, yeah, he probably has a big attack, an Arsenal in his hand that would do a lot of damage. But how much do I realistically care if I now have Exodia? Because now he's on a 2-turn clock for the rest of the game. If I have enough items, he is under 15 damage a turn forever and ever. Okay, I do want to talk about this here because I do pause. One thing I actually thought about was Tunic pitch this, because like this is usually like pretty decent, right? But I was thinking like go to 3, keep all the counters on my items, swing 7. Because like, okay, Crown, Rampart gives me a card. He takes 2. Still has all the cards in hand. Does he really care? I don't know. But like, I get to keep all the counters on the items. It's pretty good. If he just like gives me 2 cards, and then like swing something back from Arsenal, pretty good. Like a lot of their scenarios are pretty good, and I almost did it just to try it out. Actually, don't. Maybe I actually do it. I don't remember actually, but it was what was going on in my head right now. Oh, so I actually did do it. Oh, okay, no. So I clicked the card, and I thought I did it. It's been a while. Okay. So we officially have Exodia online. Our opponent is going to come in with a Glacial Footsteps Fuse, and this is where the Insidious Chill is pretty freaking good. And again, we have a yellow. We're not behind on life. We'll just get rid of it. That's fine. We'll block with the red. It's the least amount of resources in our hand. Now, there is an argument to blocking with the yellow, swinging the red, keeping things. But I did figure that a pummel was coming. And if a pummel was coming, I would much rather just keep this blue in hand and not have to bet on a turn that I don't think will actually happen. So I just played overall safer, if that makes sense. Alright, so now we're going to come in for 15, and importantly, the only thing he could have that would be bad for us is Blizzard. But like, if he does Blizzard us, he is still probably taking some form of damage, which is, again, all we care about. Big thing here, no crown. This is another turn where I thought, okay, he was doing pretty good. But he has a turn without crown, so I'm much likely to leak damage. Because here's the insane thing: you can't give me a card. There's no way he can give me a card. Because he has to swing Titan's Fist and Arsenal card. If you just let me stay at this life total, it's absolutely insane. Yeah, so he's just leaking damage like crazy this turn. I wish I would have showed the graph. Yeah, he's just leaking so much damage. To the point where I'm in the life lead again. I still have this Sigil in Arsenal. We do see our first remembrance, and he is going to still in this morning, so he is just committed to going at face. And I am so fine with this. I have 3 blues in hand. My options here are absolutely limitless. Now, you almost see me make the mistake of taking the damage. And the reason I almost took the damage is just because I have 3 blues in hand. I can at least load all of my items through the frostbites and not really care. Because it'd be 10, it would be 9 if I didn't load this. But I didn't really see a reason to do that. I was like, okay, I have an opportunity here to get this remembrance on my hand, because remembrance right now isn't great. Now, if it was like a free remembrance where like it wasn't really, it was just kind of dead in my hand, I had no way to play it, wasn't that good, but I was able to hedge, use my equipment, get these items loaded, and get ready for a big turn. There was some consideration to swing here, but I neglected against it. Just load up the items and wait. Alright, we have a disable, and this is cool. We do not care. We keep a blue, take 1, and we ask him how 15 damage sounds. And then this is where I was talking about last turn. This is a free remembrance. We could use the remembrance to preload items, but this is a point where like we really don't want to see the second one because they'd be stacked up on top of each other, and something like that could kill us. We just have 2 no blocks in our hand when we don't have our equipment anymore. So just getting this out of the deck, getting the deck shuffled, because our pitch deck wasn't really fantastic. We didn't really have like all the blues stacked up on top of each other throughout the deck like we wanted, so this does give us a chance to redo it. And if he Ice Reacts here, this is fantastic, which is what he does do, and it is absolutely blowout. Now, I will say this is one of the big mistakes I do, is I get 3 healing bombs, because my thought process was, I'm just adding 9 life back to my deck. That's broken. Well, realistically, I should have gotten blues, or I should have gotten the 3 for 7s. Because like, there's realistically not going to be many points where I can actually play Healing Bomb in this game state and it actually do something. Like when is the time I get to really Healing Bomb? Right. This was an unfortunate direct though, because if it was like a really bad like red, like if it was like a CNC or something, it would have been like a good Healing Bomb. Because like again, at this point I don't want to see the reds anymore. If I see the reds, I am somewhat forced to just use them, even when I don't want to. And boom, 2-unit counter. That's the third 2-unit counter we've seen, and just that's 3 resources later. We have now paid for a whole entire blue card later in the game worth of stacking up items, which sometimes 1 resource changes your whole entire turn. Unfortunately, we reach all the remembrance again, but this one we can. I just edgelord it here, and I'm saying, alright, cool. We're gonna load items here, and we're going to get this tempo back for Narnia. Load. In case we ever do need to remember it again. And now, alright, OLDHIM, you tell me how this 3 for 7 feels. You talk to me. And again, I don't want to see these cards again. And like the really cool thing is he can't really mitigate as much damage because one of the issues, like, yeah, we're swinging for 15, but like because he has Crown, Rampart, and Gaming cards, he can actually mitigate a lot of that damage. It's hard for him to mitigate 3 for 7. Swinging for 9. Like I said, he just want to come. He's just wanting to do his thing here. Now, here's why I do end up getting blown out here, and it did feel pretty freaking bad. And this is where I actually got super scared. I was like, maybe there's a chance I lose this game. Was this play right here? Because I go down to 8. I don't have a turn. I just don't have a turn. I don't have any cards in hand. So the max I could do is swing for 1. But I can't even activate my items because now I'll just lose go again. And you see me reading here just to make sure it does say go again. So I'm forced just to pass the turn. He keeps a full grip. Well, the way he's been playing, he's been not having an arsenal. So I do take these as opportunities to soak some extra, not soak as much damage, but be able to shoot more damage back because he's going to be able to mitigate less. And opponent's in the tank right now because this is, again, every single decision here is going to matter. And opponent comes in with Glacial Footsteps fused. And I'm like, alright, that sucks. We're just going to pay with the yellow. He's going to come in for 8. That's perfectly fine. We're going to get rid of the card that doesn't attack. We're going to take 5. Now, even at 3, I was not panicking. Like, this life total with almost every other hero, if these were the life totals, you'd say, alright, Oldhim's just going to take this game home. Here we go. Good game, Oldhim. But me, I'm like, no. I still thought like he had a chance to win, but I still felt like I was favored. And all because, yeah, I'm at 3, but now I get to present 15, which is his life total. He can't just ignore this. He's going to have to block a significant amount of it because he knows how well I can block. And if there ever becomes a turn where he just maybe leaks only 1 damage and I'm able to send a lot of damage back, he's going to lose that race. But fatigue is no longer a thing. I have a remembrance left. I don't lose cards whenever I attack. He has 36 cards left in his deck. And it would be disingenuous. I'm going to say this. It would be disingenuous for anyone to say that anyone can die from fatigue. I know a lot of people would say, well, we can just block out the rest of your damage for the rest of the game. No. Because the way my breakpoints work, no. And if he did do that, then I would quickly just evaporate his deck. Like, every single turn, I get, like, 3 cards from his hand. Alright, boom. It's going to mitigate some of that damage as we use. He's finally using those legs, those absolutely busted Guardian legs. That one day Guardians will get actual good legs. Not really, but this turn, and I talked to him about this turn after the game. This made me think he's good at him because most people would say like some of the decisions he's made, like not having Crown. The certain attacks he's done, certain blocking he's done, I think this play right here, and I've gotten to play this matchup a good amount. This play right here to ice react me was actually one of the scariest things I've seen. Why? But Isaac, you still have 2 cards in hand, and you can still shoot. Why does it matter? You don't know why it matters? Okay. So I only need 2 more resources to swing 2 times. I have 6. So that means that's 4 resources I have that are extra. Barring like a blizzard or something. You know where those 4 resources go? Boop, 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 and boop. So now, next turn, as long as I have a blue, because I have Tunic, I swing for another 15. which means I am free to block with 3 cards easily, and he can't do a single thing about it. Like, nothing in his hands besides a red Glacial Footsteps would scare me. And then he couldn't even fuse that. So I give him 3 cards, take 1, swing 15 again. And we're going to start doing this. And that's all because I have the second blue in hand. But now, this card goes away. I don't get to preload all of my items and go on with all my day. I can't. So this play is a sign of good. And I hear a lot of players talking about, like, one of the signs of a good Odom is when they ice react you and when they stalagmite you. And this was a fantastic ice react. I cannot get over how good of an ice react this was. This is either a high level decision that he's either played this matchup a bunch, or he just, I don't know how he read this. If he's not played this matchup a bunch. I just don't. Because I've rarely seen people do this. And when they've had opportunities to do this, they haven't because you have 2 cards in hand, Ice Rack does nothing. That's just people not understanding what Ice Rack does. People just don't understand why Ice Strike is there and what it is for. They think it is only to, like, prevent your opponent from having an arsenal. No. It does stuff like this too. Where this turn it doesn't help, but next turn, oh, he just mitigated so much damage. He mitigated so much damage next turn, it's crazy. And, like, in this point, I'm just like, I'm literally just, like, shaking my head going, like, what is going on? I actually could lose this to, like, this specific Odom because of how well he's playing. But I regained my focus, and we're just gonna load up. We're gonna shoot again because that was even a situation where, like, I wouldn't even care about Blizzard because most people would bring up, like, Blizzard be bad. If I have 2 Blizzard, I don't give a monkey's you know what about Blizzard. But I got a card out of him as well. This is pretty good. We still leak damage, which is gonna, as long as we're making his life total go down and he's losing cards in his hand, I win that. And now he's down to 1 card in hand, and I'm still shooting for 5. But don't let my position here fool you. He would have lost so easily. Like, almost deterministically if I kept those 2 blues. So I'm signed to 3, and he has an opportunity. Does he, and this is where I think where I do think he messed up, but I get his logic. If I get to keep 4, and I've had a card in Arsenal for a while, and I don't know if he would know what it is, but he could probably do such a healing card. If I get to just keep a full grip, and I get to lower my shoot, and then think like a real attack, while still keeping some counters in Arsenal on my items, no shot of winning. He is 100% dead the rest of the game. I get his hand the rest of the game. But here he at least forces me to do something. I at least have to react in some kind of way, right? And that's all he's going for. Is like, you need to do something because this is technically lethal. And I can't just be like, block with Tunic. I have to block with more stuff. And here, I see a good opportunity to block with the Fendel's Fighting Spirit, gain a line, block it all up, go to 4. 3 blues in hand. This is pretty simple at this point. And we're just going to load it up. And he has no crown, which it is technically only 1 damage. What that does is it gives him floating mana to easily be able to use Rampart. And it just puts in a card back into his hand for the following turn. And this is why I tell people, Rampart and Crown of Seeds individually are not fantastic. It's just together they are a menace. They mitigate so much damage. But here, that's 2 damage on the first shot. That's 2 damage on the second shot. Yep. So far we've leaked 4. And we have 1 more coming. And Now, he is under lethal every single turn for the rest of the game. Every single turn, he is under lethal. And this is actually not a fantastic hand to draw. But, luckily for us, that's why we kept a sigil there. So, we actually will net 1 life. Based off of how much we would have took, if that all makes sense, probably. But, yeah, here, again, this is pretty self-explanatory here. He's at 1 life with no crown. He is just dead. We play around Dice React. And we descend 15. And he physically cannot mitigate it all. He just doesn't have a way to. And if he did, like, let's say he, like, ramparted and then blocked with the rest of the cards from hand and somehow lived. I don't know what world that is, but somehow lived. Cool, I time walked you. I get a full card hand next turn. And we do it all again. And you can see slowly I have gotten the deck things down. It was like almost 20 cards earlier, now it's 13. And if I ever start time walking him every single turn, like I said, just like that, the deck sizes would equalize. But we get there, we win. And just look at the damage threatened, by the way. Jesus Christ. And this dude got a little healing himself, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But this was a very, very interesting game, and I'm glad I got to play it and record it. I don't actually get to record these games a lot, where it is down to like very, very micro turns, like one small tiny decision that you probably wouldn't even catch in the moment, even if you were trying to be as analytical as possible. You wouldn't catch that. Also, I just want to point out, I don't think either one of us played significantly fast. I mean, he played decently fast, but I didn't. And, yeah, 28 minutes. Now, obviously, real life, you're doing, like, real counters, actual shuffling. But, like, this shows, like, you don't always have to go to time. Like, there's 20 minutes to spare. You can't tell me the adage of counters and shuffling would have been 20 minutes. You play at a reasonable pace, you won't go to time. But it does require both players to do that. Well, guys, if you guys enjoyed this breakdown of Dash versus OLDHIM, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe, comment down below saying, Isaac, you are the best Control Dash in Ohio, most because I am the only Control Dash in Ohio. But, it's been your boy from Siphon TCG. I'll see you guys next time. Peace!